The night air was thick with gunpowder and adrenaline, smoke curling through shattered windows like ghostly fingers. Glass crunched underfoot as guards moved through the mansion, their boots leaving prints in debris that caught the moonlight. Outside. Jose didn't wait. The moment the shots rang out, loss of ground, loss of men, loss of opportunity, he moved. Fast, controlled. A shadow slipping between shadows, disappearing into the maze of hedges and walls before the perimeter could tighten like a noose. Gone before anyone could close in. No hesitation. No second attempt. No foolish pride demanding he stay and fight a losing battle. Just retreat. Strategic. Calculated. Living to fight another day. His breath came hard as he reached the wall, scaling it with practiced efficiency. Blood that wasn't his stained his sleeve, a reminder of how close he'd come, how close she'd been. Next time would be different. Next time he'd take what was his, inside. The air still rang with the echo of gunfire, the acrid smell of discharged weapons burning Deneen's nostrils. Spent casings littered the marble floor like brass confetti, catching the light from the crystal chandelier that somehow still hung intact overhead. She steadied herself against the kitchen counter, fingers white-knuckled against cold granite, breathing uneven, chest heaving, heart racing like a trapped bird, throwing itself against her ribs, but upright, still standing, still alive. The body near the doorway hadn't moved since she'd watched it fall, a man in black tactical gear, eyes staring at nothing, a pool of crimson spreading beneath him like a dark halo. She'd seen death before, in hospitals, in sterile rooms where it came quietly, expected. This was different. This was violent and sudden and real in a way that made her hands shake. Lee lowered his weapon slightly, the movement precise and controlled, eyes scanning everything with practiced efficiency. Every corner where threats might hide, every angle where danger could lurk, every shadow that moved wrong. Clear. The word came sharp, cutting through the ringing in her ears. Final, absolute, but his attention shifted quickly. To her, not soft, not questioning, assessing. Taking inventory with clinical detachment, checking for blood, for wounds, for signs of shock, making sure she was intact, making sure he wouldn't have to explain damage to the man who owned her. She passed inspection. Barely, footsteps, fast, approaching from the main hallway, different from the guards who moved in careful formations. Heavier, more controlled, more dangerous. The kind of footsteps that made other men step aside. Kai, he entered the room. And everything shifted. Instantly. The air changed, charged with electricity that made the fine hairs on her arms stand up. His presence filled the space like a physical force, pushing against the walls, demanding attention. Not loud, not chaotic, controlled. Every line of his body radiating lethal competence. But beneath it, something darker, something sharper, something that made even Lee straighten almost imperceptibly. His suit was still pristine, he hadn't been near the fighting, had been kept safe while his men handled the threat. But his eyes were murder. They found her immediately. No delay, no distraction. No acknowledgement of the bodies or the blood or the men who waited for his orders. Locked onto her like a targeting system, like she was the only thing in the room that mattered. Because she was. Deneen. Her breath caught, lungs seizing, not from fear, from the way he said her name. Low, barely above a whisper. Tight, like it hurt to say. Controlled, each syllable measured, but barely. The control was fraying at the edges, threadbare and desperate. He crossed the room in seconds, long strides eating the distance between them. Closing the gap, eliminating space. His hand came to her. Firm, fingers wrapping around her upper arm. Checking, running up to her shoulder, down to her wrist. Not asking permission, making sure. Verifying with touch what his eyes couldn't confirm. You're hurt. Not a question, a demand for contradiction. She shook her head slightly, the movement small. I'm okay. A pause, his jaw tightened, muscle jumping beneath stubbled skin. Subtle, but there, because okay wasn't enough. Okay didn't mean unharmed. Okay didn't mean safe. Okay was a word people used when they didn't want to admit the truth. His hand moved up her arm, fingers trailing over fabric, searching for wetness that would mean blood. To her shoulder, pressing gently to check for pain. To her jaw, cupping her face with unexpected tenderness. Turning her face slightly to the light, inspecting every inch of skin, verifying, every detail catalogued and filed. Like he needed proof she was whole, like seeing it once wasn't enough. like he'd check 100 times before he believed it. Behind him. Lee spoke, voice low and professional. They breached the back, timed it clean, coordinated with a distraction at the east gate. A beat of silence. We handled it 4 down, 1 escaped. Kai didn't look away from her, didn't respond immediately, didn't give Lee the attention his report deserved, because his focus was still her, always her, only after a moment. A slight nod, acknowledgement, nothing more. Lee understood, he always did, then. His attention shifted, just slightly, toward the bodies on the floor. The house didn't settle after the attack, it shifted, like something had already entered before anyone saw it coming. Deneen felt it first, that crawling sensation up her spine, the way the air felt wrong. Too still, too heavy. Kai. His attention was immediate, absolute. Something doesn't feel right. He didn't dismiss it, didn't tell her she was being paranoid or jumpy after the attack. He listened. Because in his world, instinct kept you alive. A sound, soft, deliberate. A door opening, slow, controlled. Not the rushed entry of an attack, something more calculating. Footsteps followed, measured, confident. The footsteps of someone who knew exactly where he was going. Jose Reyes stepped into the room like he hadn't broken in, like he'd been invited, like he had every right to be there. He looked older than Deneen remembered. The years had carved lines into his face that hadn't been there before around his eyes, bracketing his mouth. His hair was shorter, touched with gray at the temples, but his eyes were the same. Cold, calculating, seeing everything as a commodity, a tool, a means to an end. Those eyes found her instantly. There you are. 4 words, but they carried the weight of years, of abandonment, of a baby who never drew breath, of grief he'd never witnessed because he'd chosen not to. Kai moved first, placing himself between them with the fluid precision of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. A wall, a barrier, a promise. You don't walk in here. His voice was ice and iron, the voice that commanded empires, that ended lives with a word. And yet, Hosea's eyes never left Deneen, even as he addressed Kai. I did. A glance past Kai's shoulder, back to her, taking her in, the way she stood, the way she'd changed. The way she looked at the man protecting her, she didn't step back, didn't cower. But her breath changed faster, shallower, because this wasn't memory anymore. This wasn't the ghost that haunted her late at night. This was him, standing there, real. You look the same. A beat, his head tilted slightly, reassessing. Stronger. You're not here for conversation. Kai's voice cut through whatever Jose was building toward. No. A pause. Jose's gaze finally shifted to Kai, really looked at him. Measured him, calculated the threat he represented. I'm here for her. I'm not going anywhere with you. Deneen's voice surprised her with its strength. Steady, clear, not the broken woman he'd left behind. Jose studied her, not surprised by her refusal. He'd expected it. You still don't understand why I left. That landed deeper than it should have. Not shock, something else. Old wounds that hadn't quite healed tearing open again. You don't get to explain that now. I didn't leave because I didn't care. Silence fell heavy between them. Kai didn't interrupt, didn't move, but his focus sharpened, reading every word, every gesture, cataloging information for later use. I left because I knew what I was building. A pause. Jose took a step closer. Kai's hand moved fractionally toward the weapon she knew he carried. And you weren't going to survive it. Her breath caught slight, but there. You think this world just started when you met him. A glance toward Kai, acknowledgement of a rival, an equal in darkness if not in power. I was already in it, already drowning in it, and bringing you deeper, bringing a child into it. He shook his head. That wasn't protection, that was a death sentence. So you left me pregnant. The words came out sharper than she intended. You left me alone to lose our child. The accusation hung in the air like smoke. I made sure you were taken care of. You disappeared. I stayed away. A difference to him, not to her, never to her. Because if I stayed... His voice dropped lower. Something that might have been regret flickering across his features. They would have used you to get to me, would have taken you, hurt you, killed you just to send me a message. A pause, and the baby. Deneen's voice broke on the word, just slightly, just enough. She would have been a target the moment she was born. Silence, heavy as wet earth. So you left to protect us. She needed to understand, needed it to make sense, needed the abandonment to mean something other than she hadn't mattered. I left because I wasn't ready to lose everything. Real, not clean, not noble, honest. I was building an empire, and empires require sacrifices. He looked at her directly. You were mine. Kai stepped forward then, just one step, but it changed everything. You don't come back now and rewrite it. I'm not rewriting anything. Hosea's attention shifted fully to Kai, two predators circling. I'm correcting it. You don't get that chance. I already took it. The moment stretched taut. Then Hosea's eyes went back to Deneen. You think he's different. A gesture toward Kai. You think because he puts you in a fortress, keeps you close, says the right words, that makes him better than me. A cold smile. He's doing the same thing I did, keeping you in his world, making you part of his empire. A pause. The only difference is he's calling it love. Don't. Kai's voice was quiet, but it carried a warning that made the air feel thinner. Hosea ignored him. I'm offering you a choice now, the one I didn't give you before. He extended a hand toward her, not touching but offering. Come with me. Walk away from this before it's too late, before you're so deep you can't find your way out. She's not going anywhere. I'm asking her, not you. The two men stared at each other, understanding passing between them, the language of violence, of possession, of men who took what they wanted and called it fate. Deneen stepped forward, just enough to be seen, to make her presence felt, to choose. You don't get to come back because it's convenient now. Her voice was steady, stronger than she felt. You made your choice, you left when I needed you, when she. Her voice caught, when she needed you. A breath, and now you think you can walk back in and offer me what? Redemption, a second chance. She shook her head. I don't need your protection anymore. I don't need your explanations. A pause. I needed you then, and you weren't there. Silence, real this time, penetrating. Hosea's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes, acknowledgement maybe, respect, or the realization that he'd lost something he couldn't reclaim. I'm about to make another one. His voice was quiet, final, a choice, a decision that would change everything. Kai didn't move at first, then just one step forward, enough to end it. No. Quiet, absolute. He's done. Hosea's gaze flicked between them, seeing it, the bond, the connection, the way she stood close to Kai without being pulled, the way she'd chosen without being forced, understanding it, not breaking it, a long pause. Then, he stepped back, not defeated, but finished. For now, you're making a mistake. Not to her, to Kai. She's not like us, this world will break her. Then I'll be there to put her back together. Kai's response was immediate, certain. Hosea studied them both for a long moment. Then he turned, walked toward the door the same way he'd come. No one stopped him, because it was already over. He paused at the threshold. When this falls apart, and it will. He looked back at Deneen. Don't say I didn't warn you. Then he was gone. The silence he left behind was deafening. Deneen stood frozen, breathing hard, not from fear, from the weight of everything that had just happened. The confrontation, the choice, the finality of it. Kai waited, giving her space to process, to feel whatever she needed to feel. Then, are you okay? She turned to look at him, really look at him. This man who'd crashed into her life covered in blood and poison, who'd pulled her into a world of violence and power, who'd claimed her, possessed her, loved her with an intensity that should have terrified her. I don't know. Honest, he was right about one thing. Kai's expression didn't change, but she felt him tense. What? This world will probably break me. A pause, she stepped closer. But I'm choosing it anyway. Her hand found his. I'm choosing you. Something in his chest loosened, some fear he hadn't named unclenching. You're sure? Not a question, a need for confirmation. I'm terrified. She admitted it, but I'm sure. He pulled her close. not gentle. Desperate, like he'd been holding his breath and could finally exhale. I meant what I said. His voice was rough against her hair. When it breaks you, and this world might, I'll be there. A pause. I'll put you back together as many times as it takes. Believed him. God help her, she believed him. Kai didn't plan in open rooms where ears could listen. He didn't need witnesses. He didn't need noise or theatrics. By the time anyone realized a move was being made, it was already too late to stop it. He stood alone in his office, lights low. The city stretching beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, millions of lights like stars fallen to earth. One screen glowing on his desk. One location marked in red. The warehouse district. Abandoned buildings. Empty streets. Perfect for what Jose was planning. He's using it as a staging point. Lee stood behind him in the shadows, silent as always, a presence more than a person. Kai didn't turn. He thinks he's hidden. He's not wrong, it's good cover. But not good enough. A pause. We've had eyes on it for 3 days. Kai nodded, processing. How many men? 12 confirmed, probably more we haven't seen. Armament. Standard, nothing heavy, he's trying to stay mobile. Smart, Jose had always been smart, but smart wasn't enough. Not this time. We don't wait for him to move. Kai's voice was calm, controlled, the voice that had built an empire. We end it where he thinks he's safe. Lee didn't respond immediately, considering. You want to move tonight. Tonight. No hesitation. And you want him alive. Not a question, Lee already knew. I want to look him in the eyes before he dies. Cold, absolute, terrifying. I want him to know exactly why. Lee nodded once. I'll prepare the team. Lee. The older man paused. No mistakes, no survivors except him. Understood. Lee moved to leave, then paused. What about her? Kai was silent for a long moment. She stays here, protected. She won't like that. I don't care. A pause. This isn't about what she likes, it's about keeping her alive. Lee studied him, seeing something in Kai's expression that confirmed what he'd suspected. This wasn't just about eliminating a threat anymore. This was personal. Understood. Denning sat in the bedroom they now shared, the room that had become hers as much as his. She knew something was happening, could feel it in the way the house moved, the increased security, the way men spoke in hushed tones and checked weapons, the way Kai had been quiet all evening, not distant, but focused elsewhere, planning something he hadn't told her about. When he entered the room, she was ready. You're going after him. Not a question. Kai paused, studying her. Yes. No point in lying. Tonight. Yes. She stood, cross to him. I'm coming with you. No. Simple, final. Kai. No. He cupped her face, gentle despite the steel in his voice. You stay here, where it's safe, where I know you're protected. I'm not fragile. I know. A pause, but you're mine, and I protect what's mine. By locking me away. By keeping you alive. The words hung between them. He came for me. This is about me. This stopped being about you the moment he made it about us. Kai's thumb traced her cheekbone. I'm ending this, tonight, and you're going to be here when I get back. And if you don't come back? The question came out smaller than she intended. His expression softened, just fractionally. I'm coming back. A promise. I'll always come back to you. He kissed her then, slow, deep, like he was memorizing the taste of her. When he pulled back, his eyes were dark. Trust me. I do. She did. That was the terrifying part. But I don't have to like it. A ghost of a smile crossed his features. No, you don't. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips again. I love you. I love you too. The words came easier now, natural. Stay here. Lee will have men outside the door. I know. And Denning. She looked up at him. Don't open the door for anyone, not even if they say they're mine. Instruction was clear. Trust no one. She nodded. He held her for another moment, then stepped back, became someone else, the predator, the king, the man who would burn the world to keep her safe. And then he was gone. The warehouse district was exactly what Kai had expected. Abandoned. Forgot. The kind of place where things happen that the world pretended not to see. Perfect for men like Jose. Perfect for what Kai was about to do. 3 black SUVs pulled up 2 blocks away. Silent. Dark, 15 men exited. Armed, trained, efficient. Lee gave the orders in rapid Korean. Positions, timing, rules of engagement. No survivors except the target. Kai checked his weapon. A simple motion. Practiced. He'd done this before, but never like this. Never with this kind of personal stake. Teams in position. Lee's voice in his earpiece. Confirmed. Kai's response was calm. On my mark. A pause, he thought of Denning, safe in the fortress, waiting for him. Now. The world exploded into controlled chaos. Flash grenades through windows, doors breached simultaneously. The sound of controlled bursts, precise, lethal. Kai moved through the warehouse like water. Fluid, inevitable, men fell, not because they weren't trained, because his were better. He found Jose on the 2nd floor, in what had probably been an office once, surrounded by plans, maps, photographs. Of the mansion, of Denning, evidence of obsession. Jose didn't look surprised when Kai entered. I knew you'd come. Then you knew how this ends. Kai's weapon was steady, aimed, final. Jose smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. She chose you. She did. Do you know why? Kai waited, because you gave her what I couldn't. A pause, the illusion of safety. It's not an illusion. Isn't it? Jose leaned back, casual despite the gun pointed at him. How many men died tonight to keep that illusion alive? Kai didn't answer. How many more will die tomorrow, next week, next year? A pause. This life, our life, it doesn't end, you know that. Then I'll keep fighting. For how long? Jose's expression was almost pitying. Until it takes her, until someone gets through. Until she realizes that loving you means living in a war zone. She already knows. Does she? The question hung in the air. Or does she just think she does? Kai's finger moved to the trigger. You're done talking. One more thing. Jose's voice stopped him. She's pregnant. Everything stopped. The world narrowed to those 2 words. You're lying. Am I? Jose's smile widened. Did you think I didn't have eyes on her? Didn't have people watching? A pause. She doesn't know yet, but she will. Kai's hand didn't shake, but something in his chest tightened. Congratulations. Jose's voice was almost genuine. You're going to be a father. A pause. Let's see if you're better at it than I was. Kai pulled the trigger. The sound was impossibly loud in the small room. Jose's body slumped, eyes still open, that smile still on his face. Dead, finally, but his last words echoed in the silence. Lee found him standing there, staring at the body. It's done. Kai nodded. Clean up. Already in progress. A pause. You all right? Kai looked at him. He said she's pregnant. Lee's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Is it true? I don't know. Kai turned away from the body. But I'm going to find out.